Welcome to Channel AMAC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online beauty visa consultant. Are you interested in migrating to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and turn on the bell on the side, watch all the updates and news. You'll be the first one getting all the inside. Now, as the world continues to shake up with the President Donald Trump from the other side of the Pacific in United States, which has affected worldwide. I think in the past 2 weeks, everybody around the world is actually watching the news coming up from USA. And it does have the effect in Australia as well. So we have already seen a very unstable and not a periodic issuance of skill migration. For example, everybody knows about general skill migration, going to EOI, going to skill select and putting your EOI and waiting for invitation. Now, it's not something that you can actually expect for. Since I think 2 or 3 years ago, just right after pandemic, because you don't know when they're gonna invite you. You don't know. Somebody wait for 2 years, somebody wait for 1 month, and somebody wait for 3 or 6 months. So a lot of people had written comments and email and asking me that Carl, with this score, EOI score, would I be possible to get an invitation? Well, my answer is yes, but the problem is we don't know when. Right? So that's the real issue then. So the only assurance or a possibility of visa will really lies on the employment sponsorship, because if you got an employer and they want to employ you, you don't need to wait for when, and you don't need to wait for invitation. You can lodge it anytime and you can get that visa right away. All right, so there's no more waiting game, just with the general skill migration, and with all the shakes up and all the restrictions coming up on decreasing the migration quota. For example, what's happening in Canada, in UK and Europe, will also affecting in Australia as well. The general skill migration, yes, they will still have that there, but the problem is not point. The problem is when. You just don't know when. So the majority of skill migration will really move into the employment sponsorship. That's why we have been focusing on bringing you more information, detail about employment sponsorship. Now, in this video, what we're going to talk about is what happens if there's a change of employment. Now, luckily, in 2025, there has been a lot of new policies has been implemented to protect the worker. For example, if there has been abuse or whatever that you found that it's unjust, that means they have utilizing your labor, overwork and things like that, you can actually file a workplace protection visa. That's a new visa that allows a worker to continue to have a visa, rather than a lot of people used to be afraid and have the fear to actually file any complaint against their boss, because they're worried that they'll lose the visa and they need to go. And some of them will have family and kids. If they watch their kids going to school, and then they know if they complain the boss, then the kids may lose the visa and they need to go somewhere else. That's another problem. The problem is not relocation. The problem is getting the kids to settle into another school, whether or not it's going to be anywhere in Australia or anywhere else in the world. It's just problematic. If you have kids, you understand what I'm talking about. So previously that was a real fear. Now they have a workplace protection visa. It's bringing the justice in the form. So nowadays it's much better way. Now, the other thing is we formally really wanted to change an employer. For example, you have work, you're fed up with this work environment, although there's no much of breach, or perhaps you have a better offer of a job. There is a lot more flexibility and opportunity that you can actually do within the current system. So This is a website that you can type that in. Your job situation has changed. You may find this web page yourself. So basically it tells you that if you have changed an employer and you are the primary visa holder, that's the actual person being sponsored, all you need to do is you get your the new employer to lodge another new nomination, and you must apply for a new visa if the visa has any change or does not have enough the time frame required. If change occupation, the current this is for if you change your occupation while you're hold a valid visa there. Now if you change your occupation, well, that's rarely the case. I don't know how a person could change your occupation from another. The sponsor must approve nomination visa granted before. It's the same. So it's just refresh. It's a new nomination, new application going in. If you want to change your employer without changing an occupation, then your sponsor must submit a new nomination that have been approved. You may be able to work in limited time while your nomination is decided. If you start working for your sponsor, you have up to 180 days. Remember back then, I recall that back then it was 90 days, and prior to that I think it was 60 days. So that's really pushing people. You don't have enough time to actually find another employer. And there's a lot more improvement coming up in 2025, which they will have the employers category, and they list it publicly on the website or on the app, whatever it is that's going to be out there. So if you have, you want to find another job, okay, in this same category of industry, then you'll be able to find an approved sponsor on that list straight away. Or perhaps it's like a map. You can go into, if you're in Sydney, you go to Sydney and look, I'm looking for a approved sponsor for occupation chef, right? Then they will show all the approved sponsors. So then you have more accessibility to find those approved sponsors, because a lot of people come to the agent or me or whoever that is. They go, all right, so I've got a job, but I don't know what to do, and my boss doesn't know what to do. So, and I don't know if he's approved or not, because I don't have access to his business profile. Whether the business is bad or good, we don't know. Sometimes there may be some hidden stuff you just don't know about it, right? So they will have that done in 2025. And another thing that they're going to implement for 2025, a good thing is that remember, once you get a 482 visa, of course, your goal is not just to get 482 visa. You want to get a permanent residency, right? There's a pathway. The pathway nowadays is 2 years. You need to work for 2 years full time. Now, that 2 years in 2005's upcoming policy, they're going to improve it where that 2 years can be accruable. So, for example, you work for employer A, you work 6 months, and you for employer B, well, within the same occupation code, for another 6 months, employer C for another 6 months, and employer D for another 6 months, all accrued together with 24 months, then you will meet that criteria in order to transfer into permanent residency. Obviously, people will say, well, but getting a permanent residency, you still need to get employers sponsored again. Yes, we have just done those videos with the subclass 186 and explained all that. Yes, however, I believe there will be another pathway that's going to come out where you could actually nominate yourself. But I don't think that's going to be under the ENS structure. I think that will be under the new point test system structure. So if you haven't worked for several years, then you could actually nominate yourself under the new point test system to actually get additional points in order to actually be invited. So that's another system. This is the whole new system. I was expecting it to actually come out last year, but waited for 12 months, haven't seen anything happen. Hopefully they will have that introduced in 2000. I believe should be introduced in 2025, because they have been talking about that for 12 months. And if they don't bring that out, it's just awkward. Why are you coining the idea? And that was actually written in the migration strategy plan. So anyway, if you have any change to your employment, you'll make sure you have a new nomination done, a new application lodged, and without any of that, or if you have been abused and things like that, I've done a specific video on the workplace justice visa or protection visa to actually protect you during that time, and you can actually lodge another visa afterwards. Anyway, should you have a question, query, more than welcome to leave comment right down below, and I'll see you next video. Goodbye.